Hey, so it's Jim Powell again. I just finished This American Life podcast with Ira Glass. The topic of the evening was $1 million ideas, which surprisingly enough, they didn't really talk about that many ideas, or really $1 million ideas. I guess that was the general theme, is that big ideas. Would have probably been a better title. So anyways, Ira Glass, he cracks me up. Every time I hear his name, every time I hear his voice, there's a. If you haven't heard him on NPR, he's like the voice of NPR, which a lot of people would associate with NPR. I mean, I think of the Family Guy episode where the poor dog, they torture a dog by leaving him home with NPR playing on the radio. And the dog scratches the door so much that he starts to bleed because of the author's voice gets to him so much. So it's hilarious, but at the same time it's kind of unfair because, I mean, NPR is great. And Ira Glass's voice is certainly unique. But anyways, so the show had several parts. One thing, they open up with talking about Vietnamese restaurants copying each other, which I thought was really hilarious because it was just a few weeks ago that there are 3 Chinese restaurants where I'm from, Coleman, and all of them have the exact same menu. I mean, literally the exact same menu. Same items, same prices, same everything. Only maybe the color is different and the title on the front page is different. I mean, it's just phenomenal. And the food, they serve all the exact same food and everything. And that was kind of the opening was talking about the fact that, if you have $1 million idea, might as well, if you can't come up with your own, might as well steal somebody else's. Which is an interesting thought that, because I've always thought that in order to make it big, you got to be original, you got to come up with something different, but, Chinese restaurants and Vietnamese restaurants apparently are able to prove that if the market isn't fully saturated, then there's always room for competition. So, just, you don't have to even be original or anything, just copy someone else and just, if you want to do better, just beat them and do things a little better than them. So you don't have to come up with something completely original, just innovate on top of what they've already done. So that was an interesting thought. They also talked about Phillip Morris and how Phillip Morris, the tobacco company, how, I guess it was the Czech Republic, the health study was done. They were trying to eliminate cigarette use, or basically they were going to give a high tax on cigarette use because it was, costing them money because they have a socialist nation, or, a socialized medicine, which, is a great point. I'll talk more about that in a second, but, I've also thought about how, we all talk about the healthcare issue. A lot of things that were proposed recently was for a single-payer system, or basically socialized medicine here in the U.S. And as much as, I thought I could see the benefits to a single-payer and a one-party insurance program from the federal level, you could also see, well, even in general, why insurance is kind of frustrating and why I could see some big dangers with that. Because, they were going in that exact same direction. In Czech Republic, as here in the U.S. they would consider too. Why should I have to pay for someone else who doesn't exercise as much, who overeats, who smokes, does all these things that are jeopardizing their health, and yet I have to pay the same amount that they have to pay, and yet it's going to cost, the system more for them than it does cost for me. So it's kind of one of the things that, one of my frustrations or concerns with socialized medicine. Another thing being, the big issue was, it's not so much who's going to pay for it, which I never understood why they never addressed with the big debate, is it's more about why is it so damn expensive. There's so many different ways that you could have saved money by, either legalizing drugs. Why do you have to go in just to get medicine to make yourselves better? There is going to be consequences to legalizing drugs. Why does the AMA have so much restrictions on who can be a doctor? They literally prohibit the market from getting too many doctors because of the fact that they don't, it keeps doctors' wages high. I could hear them people saying arguments like, well, it's more of a quality thing. We want quality doctors. Well, I mean, heck, why not allow just more doctors that have at least some basic training? I mean, yeah, you'll have a division of quality of labor. Why are we having a socialized system in the fact that everyone has to basically receive the same quality? I mean, they're not getting the same quality anyways right now, so you might as well allow more doctors out on the market that can at least write prescriptions if you're not going to legalize drugs. They would basically still serve the purpose of, you got to go to somebody. You're not a genius. But I mean, thanks to the internet and stuff like that, I mean, I can look up and get a basic idea of what's wrong with me. But I go to my doctor to get the medicine because I have to. Now, it's not to say that everyone should, self-diagnose. I mean, you obviously still need expertise, and that's, part of the division of labor in any economic model, is that you're going to go to people who know something, and you're going to do what you have to do in order to get that information or get that input. And so especially when it comes to your health or to your life, you're going to go to a doctor and you're going to pay him money so you can get that, his diagnosis. So I don't think it would, destroy doctors, but it certainly would lower their playing field. And I think at some point in the future too, I know I'm off topic, but this stuff's always been on my mind, and that's the purpose of these videos, just to capture these thoughts and get them out there, is that with technology advancing, when you think about it, doctors serve as really sophisticated computers. They go to school for years. They study patterns in these different symptoms to come up with a diagnosis. Well, what is to say that you can't develop a computer with the statistical best or better means of diagnosing people? I mean, if you just had someone who's smart enough to run a system that could say, well, all right, they have these symptoms. I mean, they're just, and to ask the right questions, you could, in theory, create a computer that would be better than a doctor, because it would say, these tests and it had faster access to information. I mean, doctors, they're spending all their time dealing with patients. They don't have time to do any more additional research on their own. Whereas if you had this hooked up to, a centralized computer, then you could, always have up-to-date information on which tests are most effective, most cost-efficient, and that kind of thing. So, long rant on, the healthcare topic, but that's just always been underneath my skin, and that kind of gave me the opportunity to talk about it. One of the other parts of the episode in This American Life on $1 Million Ideas, they're talking about pitches, which, I think is a very interesting topic, and that, not enough effort is put into teaching our business grads, or even probably think people, in our culture today, or in our society today, think about really pitching your idea, pitching your business. The only people that seem to be focused on that are your salesmen or maybe your executives and that kind of thing, because those are the ones making the big sales. But really and truly, I don't understand why every business, no matter how big the corporation, doesn't have some sort of training to teach their employees, the mission, the purpose. I mean, because, yes, I mean, it seems, to us little peasants in these big corporations, what's the point of memorizing some mission statement or some value statement or something like that? But really and truly, I mean, that's the heart of the business. I mean, if you lose that vision, then you've lost your company. So it is extremely important that that vision is not just memorized, but it's lived out in every employee, and that it's hammered into them that this really does matter. This really is valuable. And I think that's probably one of the key points. They pointed out several things that makes a pitch successful. There's actually, we're talking about like they actually have a competition. I guess it was up at MIT for pitches, because apparently a lot of investors go to MIT to collect ideas and to find investment opportunities. But in the competition, they gave two examples of ones that could win. One played onto the people's emotions. The other presented lots of things that they pitched the idea that it was cost effective, that it was better quality, that they already had a strong staff, and that they were really just, all they were looking for is additional income to take this great idea forward. And that was, they were basically selling or pitching an idea for a new type of concrete, and it was economically a better idea. So I mean, of course, any great idea will sell, but the idea was the key about the pitch. How can you sell? And I think some of the things that stood out to me in that segment was, or at least talking about pitches, the people were kind of dry. I mean, they obviously had a short amount of time. They didn't have however many minutes like I have right now to convey all these thoughts and ideas. But in selling a pitch, you're very passionate. When you have someone who can convey their thoughts in a very streamlined fashion, but say it in a way that, they're expressing their emotions. The key to, I think, a pitch is saying, we've already got the vision. We've got the idea. We've even got the people that we've already are bringing on board. We're just looking to see if you want to join this movement. And I think that's probably the key to any pitch, and the key to really moving any company is, to have that vision, B, to pass it along to the rest of your employees. I mean, I remember reading an article, and they were talking, it was a guy who was like an angel investor. These are the people that invest lots of money into startups and stuff like that. But he was saying, a lot of people, in the IT industry, they focus on getting capital and scalability, scaling their business as quickly as possible. But he was trying to say is, the first thing you should do is, if he could tell them, these first-time entrepreneurs anything, is that the first 5 things you should do are recruit, and recruit. Get people. You're not going to know everything. You might have a great idea. You might be the best engineer, but you're not going to be able to be the best at everything. So work on, first and foremost, getting the right people involved that can do everything that's needed to make a successful company. I mean, it seems like a given, but apparently a lot of first-time startups don't do that. And this is coming from a guy who doesn't have any first-time businesses. So what do I know? Maybe I will someday, and maybe I'll make it big. So those are some of the thoughts that came to my mind while listening to that podcast. So always enjoyed listening to This American Life, and look forward to next time. Thanks.